The year is 1980. We have just seen a comedy musical film known as The Blues Brothers. We are going to fix it.
Hit it. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Mirror Movie Universe podcast. My name is Nate. I'm one half of the hosts of this shindig, and across the aisle and across the country from me is my oldest brother, Dan. And today we're going to talk about the Blues Brothers. Say hi, Dan.
Hi.
So, in order to talk about, I can't do this accent forever, man. I'm going to
Can't wear the
get glare
sunglasses
out of
through
these
the whole
glasses.
thing. It's going to bug me.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, in order to talk about Blues Brothers today, we're going to have to talk about what happens in Blues Brothers. And oh boy, does a lot happen in this movie. We're going to have the same problem with this that we had with Star Wars, where I'm just going to talk about everything really enthusiastically. And it's going to take 10 minutes.
For like 30 minutes. Yeah.
It's going to take like 10 minutes. I'm going to try to
hit the highlights.
Hit the highlights. So Blues Brothers is about two brothers named Jake and Elwood. Elwood played by Dan Aykroyd and Jake played by John Belushi, who are natives of the Chicagoland area. And the movie starts with Elwood picking up Jake as he gets out of jail for holding up a store, and they get into this old cop car that they affectionately call the Bluesmobile and drive into the city. They meet a nun who's the head of the orphanage that they grew up in as kids, because Jake promised to before he got out of jail. And the nun very sternly tells them that they have to raise $5,000 or the orphanage will be closed and she'll be sent to the missions in Africa and she's very, very concerned about this. So they go on a mission from God after they go to church, and a beam of light shines down on Jake and tasks him with this holy quest to get $5,000. So they have to get their band back together to play a venue large enough to raise $5,000 in order to get it to the orphanage. They go on a quest to get each one of their band members back. One of them is like a singer at a hotel. One of them is the maitre d' waiter at like a fancy restaurant called Chez Paul. A couple of them are working in a diner with one of their spouses, who turns out to be Aretha Franklin, because there's a whole bunch of cameos from great blues musicians.
Amazing blues artists, yes.
Wonderful. And they get the band back together. Their first gig that they play is at a country barn, because the two main blues brothers are kind of stringing the other guys along. They act like they've got a plan. They really don't. They go to this blues bar, and they cannot play music that the people there like, because it's just a bunch of country folk. Yeah. And so they just play the theme music from the TV show Rawhide like 47 times in a row, and they love it. But they leave a tab there, and the country music people who were supposed to play that come after them and are trying to kill them. They're also on the run from the cops, because a single traffic violation at the beginning of the film, throughout this whole thing, will slowly grow to hundreds of cop cars chasing them, culminating with the army at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And they also, at one point very early on, see a demonstration of Illinois Nazis who won their court case today. So they're protesting on a bridge. And they, being the good American citizens that they are, just drive straight through the bridge and knock all the Nazis into the water. And it's very cool. And it's just a delightful time. So all of these evil people are after them, and they eventually play a big venue show that they sneak out to the middle of nowhere to play, get the $5,000, and they as their band plays them off, they run to their car and say the famous line, "It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses." And they run away to Chicago, and it's the last 100 miles of the chase. They have hundreds of cop cars chasing them. It culminates with the army, like I said, and they're trying to get the $5,000 to the Cook County tax officer, assessor's office, and they finally get there just before they're handcuffed and they're sent back to jail, and that's how the movie ends. There are great comedic bits in this movie. I left out an entire subplot that one of the Blues Brothers former spouse is trying to kill him
Yep.
throughout the entire movie,
Played
and
by
she's
Carrie
played by
Fisher. Fantastic.
Princess Leia. Oh, it's wonderful. And a whole bunch of other stuff. Like they fool the chasers in different ways. John Candy is one of the cops. And his car gets flown into a truck, and he just picks up a mic and he's like, "Hi, we're car 55. We're in a truck." There's a great bit when they defeat their Nazis. The car does a backflip because the Bluesmobile is capable of doing these magic feats.
Magic.
So
yeah.
all of this happens in this movie. All of this and more in Blues Brothers. Out of all of that, what do you like, Dan?
I love this movie. So I saw this movie for the first time. It was an Easter present, weirdly enough, when I was like 16. Was not prepared for the amount of cussing because I had it on like the awesome stereo speakers for all the music. So that was fun. But I've loved it ever since. I've always thought, okay, if I was going to go into an argument or a debate about a movie blind, not know the question and have to pick the movie before, I would pick Blues Brothers, because so much is covered in this film. Best musical, done. Best car chase, done. Best supporting actress, done. Like, so much good stuff here. Speaking of, can we just talk about the car chases in this? They are so good. I love it. John Landis, like he said in an interview, he shot them all at 90 miles an hour. And then he went back and saw it, said, people are going to think I sped up the footage. So he put extras in the shot to make it look so that people wouldn't think the film was sped up. I love it.
And you got literally hundreds of real cop, because none of it's CGI. This is 1980. Hundreds of real cop cars just crashing into each other. One crashes into a semi truck. Hi, we're in a truck. And it's like, I agree with you. Car chases in this, which is great.
If you compare this to like the Fast and the Furious movies for car chases, like there's this great scene where they trash a mall. They're driving through the mall. They're smashing into stores. It's all done practically. And what I love about it is then it cuts to the drivers, both the cops who are like seriously trying to follow them and Jake and Elwood. And they're just like, oh, half price haircuts as they're smashing stuff. If
this mall's got
Fast
everything.
And Furious, it would all be CGI. It would be like fans blowing. They would have the car go through at 5 miles an hour and speed it up. And then they would cut to the drivers going, wow.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's so cool to see it happen the way that they do it. It's beautiful and so fun to see. Just love it. The music in this is so good. They got,
it's great.
I'm not going to be able to get everybody. You said Aretha Franklin.
Yeah,
they
Cat
got
Calloway's there too.
They got Ray Charles, which is one of my favorite bits of the whole thing. When they go to the music shop and Ray Charles is there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He's there's a kid who tries to steal a guitar and he pulls out a gun and shoots at him. He's blind. Like, it's, oh my God.
It's so funny. I think as we say with a lot of the movies, like if you haven't seen it, please go see it. It's really, really, really good. Nate, what do you love about this movie? I don't want to take everything. So what do you love about it?
All right, I got a couple small things and then a big thing. First is very similar to what you said, where they're driving through and they're just like stone faced the entire time. Throughout the entire film, they don't care. Carrie Fisher has this great bit where she's trying to kill them the entire time. She like bazookas their apartment, blows up their building, like she flamethrowers a telephone booth that they're in. And like the telephone booth, like, gets blasted into the sky, lands on the ground and all of this kind of stuff. Like someone's just tried to murder them. And they're laying on the ground. And one of them's like, oh, there's got to be at least $1.35 and change here. Cause the telephone booth like broke open. So they're just like picking up quarters and then they run to their car. They don't even acknowledge it until the end of the movie. Oh, that's great. I love all the cameos in this movie. I mentioned John Candy, Carrie Fisher, and all of the blues people. But also there's a bunch of little ones. The guy who gives Jake his like clothes back at the prison at the beginning is Frank Oz, who did the voice of Yoda in Star Wars. He's Grover on Sesame Street, all this kind of stuff. And the Cook County assessor's guy at the end, that's Steven Spielberg. Like, but just Steven Spielberg is just there,
Yeah.
which is just delightful. But mostly what I like about this movie, is that it is the quintessential American film. It is American cinema in its most condensed form, with all of the bombastic action and the kind of comedy that you see. I saw this when I was in high school, and when I moved to college, I was in the dorms. There was a guy on my floor who grew up in Toronto, and he found out that I loved movies a whole bunch, and he's like, "Hey Nate, I want to see, like, because we had like a regular movie night. He's like, yeah, tonight I want to see the most American movie that you can drum up. Like, I want America in a movie." And I was like, "Tanner, we're gonna watch Blues Brothers if that's okay." And like, he was given an education about this fine country, through this movie. Really, there is nothing more American than two broke criminal musicians driving across the country like bats out of hell to deliver a tax payment to the government so that an orphanage can live. Meanwhile, they're being chased by hundreds of cop cars, country music singers, and Nazis, literal Nazis. It's quintessentially American, and I love it. It's fantastic. I love Blues Brothers quite a bit. Yeah, no notes. Well, not no
But we
notes.
have
There's
to
gotta
do
be
notes.
some.
That's the whole.
You gotta.
That's the whole premise of this show that we
Yeah.
came up with.
Yeah. What's your fix there? I'm not doing a Chicago accent. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm trying to do Dan Aykroyd doing a Chicago accent.
Yeah, because he's Canadian. It comes off more Canadian. That's very good.
Yeah. Anyway, what's your fix?
All right, so here it is. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, when you see a film, it is not showing you something that happens in real life, though it has the propensity and the ability to be able to do that. It's showing you an illusion that you put together in your head. And I'm not talking about documentary as the 0.1%. I'm talking about real moments that happen and are captured in film. Trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. I'm talking about...
You sound like a film course professor on like day one of the syllabus.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Buster Keaton with the stunts that he would do back in the day, the barn falling and him being in the middle. I'm talking about Gene Kelly doing the dancing and singing in the rain.
Which now, is really just
no fancy editing, full body shot. He actually does the dance throughout the whole thing. This movie is a little bit strange. We talked about how amazing the blues performers are. They are all good. Some of them are recorded live.
Yeah.
Some of them are not recorded live.
Yep. Aretha Franklin's not. She couldn't get the ADR to match her mouth.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to fix. So
Aretha
Franklin deserves better. She is an amazing like queen of blues and R&B. Why did you have her do the hokey dance and make her lip sync this? Just redo that scene, give her a microphone, have her do it live. It's so weird because right before and after you see John Lee Hooker playing outside live, and then you have this terrible lip syncing. So just, and I don't really care if it's in the diner or not. You bring back Blue Lou Marini, you bring back Matt Guitar Murphy there, Jake and Elwood. It can be like a wipe to her on a soundstage for all I care. Like musicals do that all the time. Think about Beauty School Dropout in Greece. Like it's just suddenly somewhere else and it's fine.
Right.
But give her a chance to perform, do it a couple times, pick the best one, and put something real on film. Capture that moment forever. Give her that opportunity. That's my fix in a nutshell. It's such a little thing, but I think it would be so amazing to get that moment live.
I agree with your sentiment. I think you could execute it the same way they do the bit with Cab Calloway at the end. He's doing Minnie the Moocher on stage, and suddenly the entire stage is very glamorous, and he's wearing this white tuxedo, and it's probably all in his head. But it's just like snap transported to a whole different thing. You could do the same thing in the diner and just give her a stage. I regret greatly. I had the chance to see Aretha Franklin 5 or 6 years ago.
Wow.
Before she died, and I didn't. I can't remember why. I think I had something else going on like that weekend or something, and I could have seen her and I didn't, and I should have, because she's great. Yeah, she deserves better. I agree with that. That's a good one.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Boy, we just love each other's stuff. So tell me yours, and I'll tell you why
Uh,
I hate it.
this is a cop out. This is a cop out one. Because so your DVD is in the bottom left corner of your thumbnail there.
Uh-huh.
My DVD of this I got from like a Barnes and Noble when I was like a senior in high school. I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch Blues Brothers for the first time, and I didn't realize until a couple of years later when I was showing my buddy in college because we got it on Netflix or something. I can't remember. Um, the DVD I had was the director's cut,
Oh,
and
interesting.
it had a whole bunch of deleted stuff. It's like a half an hour longer. Um,
Wow.
and so that's the Blues Brothers that I saw and the one I know. And so every time I watch Blues Brothers with someone new, which is quite often in when I make friends, I'm like, oh, let's watch this movie. It's great. Um, I'm like, oh, what, like, when does this thing happen? And it just doesn't. And so there's a few extra jokes that are great. And I really like. There is a bit where Elwood is quitting his job. And he like takes a couple of like he works in like some kind of spray can
Like a
factory or
glue
whatever.
factory or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he takes like a couple of canisters of stuff. Later in the movie, in the director's cut, it was cut out, but there's a deleted scene where they are leaving the big venue. He's sneaking through the parking lot. He puts like glue on the accelerator pedal for the guys, the country singers in their RV or whatever, and that causes them to crash later. But he also sprays something into the tires of the cop cars, and
Oh.
he very calmly is like, this is, and he says like a very complicated long chemical name. And he's like, when combined with heat and oxygen, it will cause an explosive reaction. And then they just walk away very calmly. Then, like 10 minutes later, when all the cops are getting into their cars, they rev up their engines and the tires start squealing and they all blow up. Like all of the tires blow out in the parking lot. And it's great. There's a whole bunch of smaller things like when they first get to the apartment that he's staying at, like he pulls the car into a garage and it's really narrow and they can't get out of the car. And a couple of other like little jokes and great things. And this is another thing, like your critique for Spinal Tap was putting back a deleted scene. I would just release, in the theatrical cut, I'd release Landis's director's cut because like the stuff they cut out is not bad. It's not extra fluff. It's funny, and I don't mind this movie as a half an hour longer thing. I even
It's
though it's kind of
already
long,
like over 2 hours
yeah,
without all the extra stuff in it.
I don't care though because like I um I remember like there are different reactions you can have to long movies. You can be like, oh my god, like I can't believe, like, when does this end or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
A couple of times in my life, I've been like, I check like, are we past the halfway point? Because I want more of this. Like,
Mm.
on a couple of movies, and this was one of them. I was like, I stopped the DVD player and I'm like, where are we? Oh my god, there's another hour left. This is great. And it builds up to the end. It's not like it's like slog. Blues Brothers really builds up at that end, that last half hour. So like, you don't really lose much with that extra half hour. Put it in, release the director's cut in theaters because it's the Blues Brothers that I know, and I love it because it's just more funny. You really can't go wrong with these characters. You could take even one of these characters and put him in a new movie like 18 years later, and like completely flip the script on its head and give him a kid and make it Illinois Russians instead of Illinois Nazis. You could do so much with this, and it's impossible to fail. I'm referencing Blues Brothers 2000s. It's a piece
What
of
a
crap.
terrible movie. Like, oh my gosh.
It's
Do
it's
not.
real bad. Don't
Would you
watch Blues
not
Brothers
recommend
2000.
watching that?
Oh man, it had so much going for it. Aretha Franklin's back, John Goodman's in it,
It's
but it's
like the
not.
same movie, but all like they try to repeat the best jokes and
Mhm.
it just doesn't work.
It doesn't land. It's not as bombastic. It's not as out of nowhere in your face.
Yeah,
If you're
because
going to
this
do a
time you're
sequel to Blues
expecting
Brothers,
it.
that's what it's got to be.
Yeah. I
But
mean, comedy is by nature like absurd. And so when
mhm.
you see the same thing again, you're like, oh, that's not absurd this time. Frank Oz is letting him out of jail. Okay. You know,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, no, If I can't have a good sequel, I want more of the original. So my fix is just do the director's cut. All of the funny jokes are already there. I didn't have to come up with any original ones. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, internet. Sound off. Do you think that do you want internet a 2 hour and 43-minute version of the Blues Brothers, or do you want to see Aretha Franklin absolutely kill it live because you know she can? Sound off in the comments. Please let us know. As always,
Yeah.
thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, and please keep watching. We'll keep talking about stuff.
Yep.